Hi everybody, I just wanted to pop into the video to give you some little tidbits I had learned on my tours in Italy, because this time I really felt like the tour guides I had were very informative and they were like really excited to share what they knew, so I was really engaged in what they had to say. So for this particular tour, it was for The Last Supper by Leonardo da Vinci, and it was actually in a building that was located outside of the main Milan walls at the time. So back then when he painted it, it would have been completely countryside all around it. And they built this little church because I believe there was a soldiers' hospital nearby and they just wanted a place for some Dominican friars to live, I believe. Feel free to correct me in the comments. But The Last Supper was painted in the dining room of this church. And I didn't notice this at first, but on the right side of the painting, you can see that it's lighter than the left side of the building, and I learned that it was painted this way because in the actual building of the dining room, there are windows on the left side, and around 5 o'clock when the friars would come in to eat their dinner, the light would actually shine from the left windows to the right wall, and he wanted to reflect that in his painting. I also learned about the tour guide's interpretation of the painting. The central figure of the painting is Jesus, and this painting is just depicting the scene in which he breaks the news that one of his disciples is going to betray him. And he has this very vulnerable, sad look on his face because even though he had just told his disciples that he was going to die, instead of comforting him, they're all fighting amongst each other trying to figure out who did it. Our first tour in Venice was a boat tour to the neighboring islands, Murano and Burano, and it was our first look at like the geography of Venice, in which it really is just a bunch of islands that were connected by people in boats. So the difference between the islands, despite their very similar naming, is that Murano is basically, I think they call it the island of glass because a lot of talented glassmakers live and work on that island, and they are renowned for the type of glass that they make, which is called Murano glass. And while we were there, we were able to watch a live demonstration when the glassmakers made this very intricate little bowl, and I loved seeing how they were really synchronized in their work, and they didn't even say anything to each other. They just knew how to do their jobs. After watching that demonstration, we were allowed to go into the gallery to look at all of the work that they had done and all of the glassware that they provide, and I was really drawn to the beautiful chandeliers, but because they didn't want anyone to steal their work, we were not allowed to take any pictures in the gallery. Also included in this tour was a trip to Burano, which is known as the island of lace making. And I thought they were going to show us a live presentation of how they made the lace, but I think there was a bit of a coordination issue. Not that I blame the tour guide or the tour group, like I just had different expectations. I was really looking forward to also buying bolts of lace that you can find in trimming shops, but most of the lace that they have is incorporated into items. Well, they have a lot of like lace doilies, house lace items like tablecloths. They also have stuff for weddings like veils and stuff, which I thought was very fun to look at, but it wasn't the type of thing I was looking for. So I was a little disappointed. But I wasn't disappointed by how cute the town looks. All the houses are painted these bright colors, and just seeing the lace items displayed outside of these shops, it just makes it seem like such a wonderful place to live. One of the most interesting things about Venice is the construction of the city, because it's unlike any other city you've seen before. You know, it's literally built on water, and the streets and avenues are canals. So you might be wondering, how did people discover this way of life? And what our tour guides told us was that the Venetians were basically, Venice was founded by a group of people who were fleeing away from tribes that were very good at horseback riding. But once you got to the lands of Venetia, because it's like full of water, the horses couldn't really follow them there. So that's why they decided to establish their living in this weird place. So the way the city is constructed is that the city is built on millions of columns of trees that they inserted into the mud. The wood doesn't rot because it reaches deep enough into the mud that there's no oxygen, so they never decay, which is crazy. But this is also the reason why Venice looks kind of wonky sometimes. The columns shift often, and it causes some floors of the city to warp. Like, my tour guide actually said there's a door she can't close in her home anymore because the ground has shifted so much. The wood absorbed the silt and the soil from the water, and it becomes petrified. So that's how they're able to build like all these churches and houses upon like basically wet soil. And on our boat tours to Milan and Burano, we did see some of like the original grounds, like without the trees and the cement built in. And she said that it was good for their vegetables. I think they grow some of their vegetables on this land, and it gives their vegetables a very salty taste. So in particular, she said she recommended the artichokes there. The second tour we had in Venice was a tour of the Doge Palace and St. Mark's Cathedral. And it was really interesting because we had a very eccentric tour guide, and she gave a lot of small tidbits that she knew from living there and just little stories about Venice. So the most interesting story I heard was that in the 9th century, St. Mark's body, who was one of Jesus' apostles, was in Alexandria. And some Venice merchants came over to Alexandria, and they stole the body in the 9th century. They were able to get away with it because they lied to the custodian about how the body was actually a bunch of pork. So because they were Muslim, they could not examine the stuff they had stolen. However, throughout the tour, I learned that Venetians are masters of marketing, and I learned that they told a lot of little lies just to really sell their home. Turns out that they shouldn't have stolen the body, because in the 11th century the church lost it, and they all prayed for 3 days for the body to be found. And on the 3rd day, it was said that the body revealed itself in a column, like an arm poked out of the column, and they miraculously found it. But my tour guide did specify that this may have been a fake story. They just told it because the Venetians are quite dramatic.
It's a